So today we wanted to cover reports. We advertise this as the reports webinar. It's very important that you're running the right report to get the information you need. So that's kind of our end goal here today. From the home screen, click on the reports button. This is going to bring you to the report manager. And here you have all the different categories of reports that we offer. And we're just going to get started with some of the basic ones. We're going to go into the inventory section. Inventory reports generally deal with current totals and not necessarily shipping and receiving or anything like that. So this is your current total inventory. And we're going to run the Inventory Summary Report 8.3. So for all the reports that you have available in Oil Country OS, you have the ability to build a filter. You can run the report without any filters, and that's going to return you essentially a summary of all the inventory in your system. But if you're looking for a particular type of inventory or a particular customer's inventory, you can use the Build Filter button at the top. And here you have all your filters that you can apply to this and pretty much any report in the system. It all looks the same. So let's go ahead and put in some restrictions on the inventory summary report. I'm going to do a company. We only want to look at Archon Data's inventory in this summary report. And I'm going to leave the rest of it blank just to show you an example of the inventory summary. And then I'm just going to click Run Report. Alright, so we can see here that this report is organized by part number. You can see that it's in blocks according to the master part number. And you have a description of those individual parts, the pipe properties, and their location, should they have a rack. And on the right-hand side, you have your total joints. You can see the most relevant information here is the ones highlighted in teal. You got your total footage and total joints. And looks like this is all the pipe we have in for this particular customer. And this obviously shows you not only pipe, but any inventory you have assigned to this company. We can obviously filter with part numbers if you're looking for a particular type of inventory. You can filter the rest of this out using the build filter. Again, summarizes all the inventory you have according to the filters you built. So I'm going to close this out. We're going to go back. If you click the home button, it'll take you back to the report manager. Another is the inventory as of. This is essentially a summary report of your totals backdated. So if you're trying to look at what you had as of last month and exclude everything that you got in the current month, then you can use this. And we're just going to build a filter. And we're going to say inventory as of, and we're going to put the end of the year. And we're going to run the report. So we have everything that was in our system at the end of last year, December the 31st. You can see it's organized by company name, location, and you can use these buttons at the top to sort through how you want to look at it. So I'm going to look at it by company name. And we can see that the joints and the footage totals are on the very right-hand side, as well as all the relevant information of the part number and the date of those jobs when they were created, etc. And you can even track the jobs themselves. So if you're looking for a particular job, you can use this report to see when it was created, the totals on it, on the specifications for that job, including the status. It's a very powerful tool. Let's go ahead and move on from the inventory and look at some of the shipping and receiving ones. Let's go ahead and go back to the report manager. We're going to look at shipping and receiving category. Basically, in-outs, right? What came in, what came out. This is based on transactions, right? So this not only includes trucks that you ship out, trucks that you receive in, but transfers between locations are also going to show up on your in-outs. So basically, if it was received or shipped and that status occurred in your inventory, this is where you're going to go and look it up. So let's select the in-out report, and we're going to build a filter. So let's say you're trying to look at the trucks that came in for last month. So let's select last month as the date type, and we're going to set the status as received. If you do not select a status, it's going to show you both ship and receive. But let's say we're only interested in looking at what we received. We're going to run that report. And here we go. You can see it's broken down by location. So this is a very powerful tool to see what came in and out of particular yards. This is all the stuff that came into our locations from December 2014. And again, you have your running totals and your total tonnage. So let's look at a different way to run the in-out report. Clear filter. This is a really easy button if you ever just want to start over. So let's look at by location. Let's look at, we're only looking at my main yard, right? And we want to see all the in-outs for this main yard in our system today. And we're going to set the date range again for, there we go, last month in Oklahoma yard. There we go. So we have our location and everything that came in or out, both shipped and received for the month of December 2014. And the format again is you have your rack quantities, your totals, and your running totals. And on the footer, you have a total count of everything, of all the transactions. So it counts up your pluses and your minuses for every transaction and gives you a total down at the bottom. This isn't necessarily a inventory report. This is a transaction report. So if you have transfers between locations, it's still going to show you that something was received to the yard, even though you didn't necessarily ship. You just transferred it. And again, you have the job. So if you're doing investigations into where a particular piece of inventory went, you can run this type of report and look for the job. And that's a great way to track it down. That's how a lot of us do it. And just to reiterate the point, you can use the arrows at the top of the headers to reorganize. Let's go ahead and move on. So we're going to go back to our shipping and receiving. And that was the regular in-out report. Another great tool is the in-out by sales order and purchase order. Let's go ahead and build a filter. Not only can you filter for the date range and the location, but you can also filter for specific PO numbers. In this case, we're just going to give it a location filter. And we want to see essentially all the in-outs for that location and what sales orders they're attached to. And again, we're going to give it a last month filter. If you don't put a date range filter, it's going to give you a huge report. It's going to give you everything that's been done since you started. So we have the order number on the left-hand side, the total balance for that order number, and the same information as the in-out report. You see all the ships and receives. It's essentially the same report. It just adds a couple columns for you and allows you to break everything down a little bit more specifically. So those are the in-out reports. So let's go back and let's move on to inventory history. Okay, so the inventory history is the transactions done to, for example, jobs or part numbers or control numbers, even racks. Again, this is transaction-based, so it doesn't necessarily reflect running totals, but these are very, very good tools to see where pieces of inventory went from an original job. So if I decide to run the job transaction history, I've pre-selected job here, so I'm going to actually sort or filter for this particular job, and we're going to see everything that's basically happened to this job. So let's just run it with that. Here you have every transaction that's ever happened to this particular job in your inventory system. It has everything from transfers to reducing via import, insert joints, and transfer location out, transfer location in. So any movement that this job does, you can find in the job history reports. It even has locations and insert joints. This is for tallies. So anytime it's tallied, you can see that here. So you have your locations for it, you have your AFEs, any comments, and this is where comments really come in handy. It gives you a reasoning for these transactions. So a good practice is to comment things like transfers or adjustments to jobs, and they'll populate here on this report. And then you can see the running footage and the running joint count. So your running total for this job. And this is really, really good for auditing particular jobs. Let's see what happens if we do last 7 days. Or you know what? We're actually going to do a location. Let's look at the Oklahoma yard and last month. And it's going to break it down. It's going to break down all the transactions for basically every job in the Oklahoma yard that happened last month, essentially. And here you see it's really cool. It breaks it down by individual job. You have the part number and its location and the transactions for that job. And this makes it pretty easily readable. It's a great little summary of activity in your yard. You can see that it's very detailed, very powerful. So let's go back and select another report. Again, these are history reports, so you can see if you have a part number that you're interested in. Let's say we're doing some 2 3/8. I think that's tubing. We can run that report. It's going to give you all the transactions for 2 3/8 tubing. So you can use these history reports to get pretty detailed. You have a reason for the transactions here. You have a beginning balance, shipped, and a transfer. You'll also have like receives and stuff like that. And again, you can track down individual jobs and their locations. And on the right, you have your totals and your running quantities. So these are all pretty similar. Again, they just format the data a little bit differently. One thing to note, any of these reports you can obviously print out or email to export them to Excel. Let's go into some sales and purchasing. These are pretty much identical between the two. They obviously just deal with different orders, one sales and one purchasing. You can look at things like open sales, any sales order we have in the system, and you can see their dollar amount and who created them, as well as the date requires and customer PO number. So this is a good tool to kind of how much money you're projected to make off these sales orders and which ones are still pending. And for these, you can run filters for dates again. Let's see, is before today. So we're going to run the closed orders report for anything before today. And you can see it's sorted by date and the order number. Those are pretty simple. Purchasing reports are pretty much exactly the same. They're going to present you the same information. Open purchase orders, past purchase orders, orders by company. Now, my favorite reports here are the finance ones, and they're probably the most powerful in the system and can give you a great advantage and insight into how your business works. So let's look at the inventory value report. And I'm actually just going to run it without a filter. This is a pretty big report. It's going to give you the total value of your current inventory. We can see the breakdown by location, by company. You can see all the total dollar amounts. It's broken down by part number. This is really useful in just kind of evaluating how much you have on racks in your locations at a current time, especially when you're talking about like taxes and things like that. Next, we're going to look at the average cost of inventory. We're going to run that. So again, this is broken down by part number, by company, and by location. And you can see the average cost of everything that you've purchased. This is great because it allows you to average what each part was purchased for. Let's say you purchased something for $38 per foot, and the market tanks, the value of that now is $22. Well, if you look at your average, and the average is 34 or lower, you can still make money off of that inventory that you purchased for 34. So by looking at it individually, you'd say, well, I can't sell that, I'm going to lose money. I'll lose $10, $12 on the foot. But if you compare it to your average, you can say, well, okay, I'd still be making $6 or $7 on average. So you've taken essential dead inventory, and by analyzing the average cost of all your goods, you can still make money on that inventory. So let's go ahead and save this to Excel so we can show you guys what it looks like. So we're going to save this as average cost of inventory. We can see that it prints out essentially the way you see it. So if you guys want to run some calculations here in Excel and take some values from it, you can do that. The basic rule of thumb is the way you're seeing it in Oil Country OS is the exact same way that it's going to export to Excel or anything else. And you can do this for every report in the system and some other parts of the system like Pipe Explorer. You can export pretty much anything with a grid in Oil Country OS can be exported to Excel. So let's close those down. So the average cost of inventory allows you to take dead inventory, compare it to your average, and see whether or not you can still make some money off of it. So let's go ahead and close those out and look at stock forecasting. And I'm actually going to run it without any filters. We have the order number, the part number, purchase orders, sales orders, and the pluses and minuses. And again, you guys can always save this to Excel, PDF, or Word in the exact same format that you guys are looking at it in. And you can see that this 2 3/8 J55, we're under 54,000 feet based on our current inventory, our current balance here at the top. All of these sales orders, these purchase orders, we're still going to come up short 55,000 feet. So you can use this information to say, okay, well, we need to purchase pipe before these sales orders are due. Again, with a part like this 4.5 J55, we can see that we're way over. So we're just sitting on this stuff. We're going to have to pay taxes on it. We're paying for the storage costs. This is the type of information you can glean from this report. We're going to move on to some of the more nuanced reports, like the custom query. These reports may not always present you the information that you want to see. There may be some specific scenario that requires you to look at some information that the reports don't readily make available to you. So these custom queries allow us to build quick reports with very specific information. This is our price list. We can see our master parts, their description, and their unit price. And we can build these on the fly for you guys, and if you guys know Transact SQL, you guys can actually do it yourself, but I know some of you guys do. So if you guys need very, very specific information, so let's look at inventory shortages. Run that one. See, you can get some very, very specific information that you don't necessarily need on an everyday basis. And you can do this through the custom query, and if you guys do need help with this or want something, you guys can always email our support team. We'll be happy to help you. And possibly the simplest and most commonly used report that we have available to you guys is the Pipe Explorer. With this, you're basically generating reports on your current inventory on the fly. We can generate an in-out report by using the combined search function. So we're going to look at that. We're going to use the Oklahoma yard like we have been. We're going to search for completed items. And we're going to search for all our shipped as of last month. And we're going to click search. Then we also want to look at our received. Received is open inventory, so it's not completed. And then we're going to look at received. And click combine search. And here we go. We essentially have created a in-out report on the fly using the Pipe Explorer. And again, you can use the save to send to Excel. And what's neat about the Pipe Explorer is that you can arrange these columns any way you'd like to see them. And that's how they're going to be exported to Excel. If you don't want to see the condition, you can always turn it off. So we don't want to see either of those. Yeah, you can pretty much turn off all of these. So let's go ahead and save that to Excel and take a look at it there. And there you see everything that was how we had it organized in Pipe Explorer is how it's exported to Excel. That's a great way to generate reports quickly and very specifically since you have all those filters that you can apply. Yeah, so the Pipe Explorer. And if you do run one of these reports and kind of want to keep it in mind and save it, once you've run everything and gotten the results you'd like, just hit the favorites button, name it, and then you can click the favorites button and run that report again. So if we clear, well, let's actually come back into it. Click the favorites, select the one you created, and it's going to run that search based on the search criteria that you saved to that favorites. If you're always having to search for something over and over again, just save it and you can do it in the click of 2 buttons. That's pretty much all I wanted to cover today.